put my headphones on. Oh, and one more. There's so much stuff going on. Give me a second. Forgot to shut some stuff off, and I'm afraid it will short out the whole thing. All right, hi, everybody. Hello. What's going on? Sorry about that. Good to see you. Welcome. Good evening. Good afternoon. Good day. How are you? Welcome to the show. Just hang out and talk amongst yourselves. Why not? As I'm running around. Thank you. I'm glad you love Hellbilly. That's a lovely thing. We're just adding it, and I come by it naturally. Many of you may know because I grew up in. Wait, hold on. What is happening? Quit this silliness. Wow, but I'm not. Why are you doing that? Something got clicked over. I'm not. No. Okay, here we go. All's well. Okay, I've got to reload this page. I had to restart my computer, so some stuff was. There we go. All's well. Is everybody here okay? Because I had to do some checking after we had a little bit of audio slide apparently on YouTube, and it was not my fault. But thank you for noticing. Hype train. Here we go. Good to see you. Oh my gosh. You know, there are times in your life when you recognize that you have a calling. You know, there's I can't remember if it was it Witches of Eastwick, or it was reminding me of this line, Witches of Eastwick or Batman. When Jack Nicholson once said, I was standing in the shower one day when I realized I was destined for greatness. And there's a moment in your life sometimes where you just kind of go, all right, you know what? I do have a purpose on this planet that is relatively unique and has value and is in a niche that no one else has any interest in filling, apparently. Hello. And not the niche you're thinking of. Just saying. It's a different niche altogether.
Moon River.
So, I think it was Batman. I think you're right, Kath. And in simply, watching the wailing and gnashing of teeth that is going on, and that it has gone on, quite frankly, and knowing that I was kind of ahead of the curve on a bunch of things, yours truly has come to realize that I'm almost singularly holding down the optimism fort and dunking on the doomsayers every day. Every single day. Just dunking on them. Like donuts. Sure. And it keeps coming back around. And so there's occasionally when there's an occasion that happens infrequently where I will see a news story come across and I'll go, oh, this is interesting. Maybe this is a twist in things. Maybe this is something I did not see coming. And I do mean not see. Perhaps there's something to this argument, or perhaps I've been gainsaying it too often. And then I look at it and I'm like, no, right again. No, definitely not. So today we have way too much material as per usual. And it is really hard to decide how to do the dumbest stuff first. And can I just start with something that, we try to spice it up around here. Don't go to the same folks every single time, right? Sometimes you want to, you don't want to have the same players. Ever since Lynn Wood has been taking a giant shit on Dan Bongino and telling everybody that he's a CIA mole and used to work for Obama. Oh, Telegram is a funny place. Ever since you almost don't need to deal with him because the QAnons have already started attacking him like crazy. The turning on Michael Flynn thing is spectacular. But then some stuff just sends us back, old school. Like, here, how about an old player? Now, occasionally these kind of clips come up into my feed. Thank you, CSL. And sometimes it's the thumbnail that makes me laugh. And that's reason enough. And sometimes it is simply the first shot of the video where the where the frozen screen is so just tickles me pink. Where everybody in the video just has, I don't know what, some things just, they click for me. And I just, like, and you just, it fills you with hope. The Diamond Silk interview with Mike Lindell, oh indeed, Chet Pants. Oh indeed. Biden, U.S. in very strong shape ahead of the holidays. Horrifying for Fox Business News. Horrifying. And by the way, the worst part about this statement, this Chiron, is that it is true. Hal has to be CIA, right? Totally. I wish. I would totally work for the CIA. They won't have me, though. But isn't that someone that I guess is in the CIA would say? There's no way all right, I'm not the Messiah. Only the true Messiah would deny his divinity. All right, I am the Messiah. My Lord! Like, now, what can I, how do I? All right. So, this is, many of you may recall that Donald Trump did not invent the colorful name, like nickname game in DC anyways. One of the people who probably, I think, made the most impact on, I think, of finding out that somebody called somebody a nickname in Washington history is the fact that we found out that George W. Bush called Karl Rove, his senior advisor, Turd Blossom. Turd Blossom. He called him Blossom. That's amazing. Like, when a lot of us found that out, we're like, yo, what now? Well, that was, I remember when a lot of people, like, my parents' generation, it was where you were when you found out that Kennedy had been assassinated. In my circles, it's like, do you remember where you were when you first heard that George W. Bush calls his senior campaign advisor and therefore his and chief of staff or whatever he moved into Turd Blossom? I mean, honestly, no, and that's not a shit for brains thing. That's Turd Blossom is a butthole. It's a dirty butthole, is what it is. And Karl Rove, that's what he would. It kind of goes to in Goldmember, in the Austin Powers Goldmember, when he's like, "Oh, I pinched one off too soon. I left a rosebud in there for you." That's what that's also a turd blossom. He's a skid mark, essentially. It's just gross. It's just like, but it was so far. It was so far over the line, so as to be just kind of like mind blowing, right? Remember that? Turd blossom is Texas slang. Oh, that's a slang that gets around. But the fact that he called, that the senior highest person in our government calls the most important advisor they have, besides, of course, the guy Dick Cheney, who was sock puppeting him at the time, calls him turd blossom. It's just, what the hell, right? So, but that never stopped Fox Business from bringing in Karl Rove. And this is, Karl Rove, what's Biden's supply chain plan? Who's in charge? What is right? There's nothing. Have you seen? Dear God. If you'll recall, I posted this earlier, by the way. The timing of this one was particularly fantastic because I had to go grocery shopping and Christmas shopping. And thank you for the super chats, by the way. You are, no pressure, my Merry Christmas. My child and I are relying on you, as is every loved one that I have. So don't forget to subscribe on Twitch. Give a thumbs up, all that kind of stuff. If you're a troll, please thumbs down. I need the CPMs, and super chats always help. It's just a good thing. So, but This was the shelves, literally like every shelf I went down. And I walked right into Best Buy, and this was what greeted me inside the door. Like I had about 3 feet, and I couldn't get like to go around this shit, you know? And at the same time, like the news on my way to the store was talking about supply chains and how there's just nothing, just empty shelves. Oh dear God. And I live in multiple places. I just got back from Nashville, Northern Kentucky, Cincinnati, and Kansas, and like in a weekend, one weekend. And I was in stores in all of those places at some point or another. And there was stock upon stock upon stock, like everywhere. Yeah, well, I am a CIA spy, right? I got news for you. The CIA does not send people to Northern Kentucky unless they're trying to get them to, like, wash out. You're the knock, James. The washout was faked. Anyways. So I tweeted this morning, and then this story comes up. Who's in charge? I don't even know what's going on. Nobody's doing anything. I'm sure there's a reasonable, it's a short clip, but I just need to know what this asshole is saying.
Joining me now to discuss it all, Karl Rove, former senior advisor to former President George W. Bush.
Who called him Turd Blossom. Please, how do you leave that? You can't leave that out of Karl Rove's biography. If you're going to read any of his CV and say, primarily, you'll know him as serving in the Bush White House, a.k.a. Turd Blossom.
Also a Fox contributor. Karl, always great to see you.
Thank you, Jackie. Great to see you.
So one of the things today in that presser was President Biden talking about the media, essentially reporting that the shelves are empty. And then he said that the shelves weren't empty and that, we were going to get everything that we needed for the holidays. But he used the example of Cabbage Patch Kids, if you can remember that, when they were just very difficult to get because of the demand out there for them. Two very different situations, very different storytelling here.
That's because there's lots of things on the shelves, dipshit. Now, you're on Fox Business, ma'am, so I wouldn't expect you to know this. But in the spectrum of things that are on shelves, there are must-have, difficult-to-get, backed-up items every year. As a matter of fact, it's been a marketing scheme since Cabbage Patch Kids that literally companies will hold back supply to create an artificial need. It's kind of like making people line up in front of an empty nightclub, right? And you go inside and there's like 5 people, but the line on the street has 60 people in it. You're like, what the fuck is happening? Well, a club with 60 people in it is lame. But a club that looks like it can't fit 60 more people is supposedly amazing. So, thank you, Vincent. I'm glad to be there for you. Much love. We're going to make it after all. I'm sorry. Sometimes, Vincent, I'm going to resort back to the theme songs of 80s sitcoms. There's those things. Right now, that would be PS5s and Xboxes. Mainly Xboxes. There's been PS5s. Like Walmart is releasing, PS5s with increasing regularity. My mom got one through a friend for my sister. It's like, because they got 2 of them. They were, signed up on 2 different places because they were rare. And then they ended up, both of them came in at the same time. But the Xboxes are way behind that. And that's more to do with Microsoft and other shit than it has to do with overall supply chain issues in that regard. That said, there's also turkeys and food and regular toys and clothing and stuff that comes from all over the goddamn place. And the materials that make those things that sort of shorten the supply chain or break the supply chain in other places. So there's a variance. So in Biden's speech, he's talking about that variance, that there's going to be plenty of stuff on the shelves. Some things are going to be hard to get. And that's always true. Now, I'm sure she'll point this out.
And the president is not speaking the truth. Your thoughts?
Well, he was not being accurate when he said, look, we are responsible, he said, at the White House for solving this problem by getting the ports and the longshoremen unions to agree to work 24 hours. The ports were trying to get to that agreement with the unions for months, and the administration played no significant role in bringing that about. Look, what have they done?
Here's what you're actually seeing here. Forget what he actually just said. But what you're seeing here is a guy that's been brought on to present a talking point that's already over. You understand? Like, that talking point is already dead. And it's a rough spot, Turd Blossom.
They issued a report in June from the White House calling the supply chain problems, quote, transitory.
Yes, they are. There are two major aspects. One, COVID. Two, people's exodus from China. Businesses leaving China, moving their factories elsewhere. In that move, there will be delays of products made and new materials shifted. And COVID has shut down factories and shut down shipping and shut down airplanes and shut down driving and shut down people's lives for so long that there's a backup of stuff at factories, where they literally shut down on the day and everybody walked out the fucking door, and that stuff has to be picked up from scratch and they have to catch up. There's basically 8 dead months of total lack of production in almost every aspect of the supply chain. That is exactly how you would define transitory. Anybody who thinks that we're going to have COVID-level lockdowns in factories worldwide forever, because that's what he's arguing, forever, is fucking insane.
They apply to inflation. They talked in that report about coffee and cars and toilet paper and showed examples of how those industries were dealing with the supply chain issues, and then said, we can take dramatic measures like we did to help Japan after the 2011 earthquakes and after we did in one other situation involving a foreign country. But what have they done here at the United States?
Well,
that's what she's having you on to talk about. One of the things they did is something you just denied they did, which is get the longshoremen to work longer hours. The other thing was to organize the shipping lanes back and forth from supply areas more efficiently. On top of that, the other thing is to give more funding to schools that train truckers is one of the things that's happening. Have you seen all those ads lately? Or if you watch the local news, more than likely, if you watch it regularly, you've seen at least a story. If you have a trucking school or a trucking line in your neighborhood or in your city or in the county, they have been doing, like, we're hiring right now and you can learn to drive in 8 weeks. All that shit's happening. Same thing's happening in England, by the way. And the fact that this fucko is also not saying this is a worldwide problem, and she's not saying it's a worldwide problem, and that the United States is handling it way better right now than anyone, is also lies by omission.
It's a good question. It's one that I've asked often, over and over again.
Hey, why don't you just fucking Google it? All right, let's see. Yeah, ask over and over. Who are you asking? Tucker? Maria Bartiromo? Business leaders? Here's a good idea. You're in New York. Take a cab down to Wall Street and ask someone. Administration remedies supply chain issues. Now this is, we gotta, probably forgive this lady. I'm gonna pull up a story right now. This is from logisticsmanagement.com. I'm just grabbing this kind of, and I'll pick this up. There we go. This guy right here. White House continues to take an active role in shaping supply chain recovery efforts. The White House is continuing to take steps to get involved in helping to remedy the myriad of domestic supply chain issues over the last several months. Sorry, the myriad domestic. I thought it was just that Democrats were in office. I thought that was the only issue. Right? That's got to be the only issue. The White House is continuing to take steps to get involved in helping remedy the myriad of domestic challenges. In October, President Joe Biden held a summit on global supply chain resilience with the European Union and 14 other nations to foster greater international cooperations on near-term supply chain disruptions and chart a course to strengthen and diversify the entire supply chain ecosystem over the long term. By the way, that little phrase right there, let me see, blow this up. Diversify the entire supply chain ecosystem over the long term. You know what that means? Get out of China. That's exactly there. This is them saying it without saying it. But what's he doing? From raw materials, intermediate and finished goods manufacturing to shipping, logistics, warehousing, and distribution. This comes on the heels of a previous announcement made by the White House focusing on expanding United States West Coast port operating hours, as well as rolling out an early warning system for potential disruptions in semiconductor manufacturing, including Asia, and also leveraging aspects of the executive order issued in February, focused on building resilient supply chains. Themes were addressed at the summit that include how to tackle the supply chain. Okay. President Biden also laid out a few different paths for the U.S. to take with a focus on supply chain resilience, including issuing an executive order to streamline U.S. stockpiling efforts by delegating authority to the Department of Defense to make material releases from the National Defense Stockpile and allow a speedier response to material shortfalls within the defense industrial base. This is beyond even the consumer supply chains, because there's all kinds of federal industries that need, internal industries that need stuff as well. Increase funding to promote international supply chain resilience among U.S. partners and allies by having the State Department allot funding to provide technical assistance to Mexico and Central America to alleviate supply chain disruptions and bottlenecks, and also announcing millions of funding for new U.S. ASEAN initiatives, including funding to augment customs and clearance procedures, reducing delays, encouraging sustainable and efficient supply chains. Plans to hold a multi-stakeholder summit in 2022, hosted by the Secretary of State Anthony Blinken and Secretary of State Gina Raimondo, focused on establishing new steps among supply chain stakeholders in other countries to build greater global supply chain resilience so that this problem caused by COVID doesn't happen again. Now, I don't know how anybody at Fox News would ever be able to, obviously Trump is wasting his time hanging out with soldiers of color, and this is probably the biggest problem they have at Fox News. But those kind of stories that I read from that logisticsmanagement.com website or wherever else, there's let's see, news. This is just let's see. Most of this is going to be on the story at the top. The supply chain solutions of Port of New York. CCPS. I'm getting all these, like, my feed gets filled with the companies that do this, that are trying to sell me ways to deal with my supply chain issues. Good old Google. Yeah, one of the, by the way, and this is, sourced by whatever. One of the reasons why we've got a shortage, a supply chain issue with cotton goods, if you don't know, is because Xinjiang in China is where a lot of the cotton comes from, and they're using forced labor. Forced labor is a wonderful euphemism for slavery. These are not people who are in prison, who can get a job while they're in prison, printing license plates and stamping them out in a machine to shorten their time by showing they're a productive person so they can go in front of the parole board and go, I've been working a job in here. I got a degree in this. I got my GED. I worked as a firefighter for 2 years as a prisoner while I was in here, and I want that applied towards my good behavior so that I can maybe bring my 12-year sentence down to 6 or shit like that, which is exactly what American prisoners do. None of the lifers or death row people work because they're not getting out, so they don't give a fuck. Working for, like, it's slave labor in American prisons. No, it isn't. You can show that you're a good member of society and you're willing to learn from your mistakes by working in these things, and you get a stipend that you use in the canteen while they pay for your housing, pay for your medical care, pay for your food every fucking day, and then you also get extra money on top of that, and you can shorten your time. That's work while you're in prison. That's not what this is. This is rounding up hundreds of thousands of people and forcing them, through threat towards their family members largely, to work in cotton fields for nothing. It's slavery. Right now on Earth. And that's where, a vast majority of Chinese cotton goes through, and the world knows it. So we just slapped a bunch of sanctions on a bunch of Chinese oligarchs, because that's what they are. The people in the CCP aren't communists. they're right like Putin. They just use they use a different phrase for what their job allegedly is. But they are laundering this cotton by creating a longer supply chain. You send it one place and it sits there, and then somebody else buys it in another company, and then another company buys it. They're all the same company with different names, and then they sell it after it's been sold 3 times. That's one of the reasons why clothing supply chains have a hitch in their get along, even beyond COVID. Now, I know what you're thinking. Hal, these people don't give a fuck about Chinese slaves, about Uyghur slaves. Uyghur slaves. They don't care about that. These two? No. They're looking at some sort of artificial bottom line.
It's interesting because he also talked about this progress that the administration was making, and Edward alluded to it. He was saying that, the dates that ships were sitting at the ports was dropping, and that might be true, but at the same time,
might. It ain't might. It is true. It is obviously and materially and logically and verifiably true. It's not might. It is true. And the fact that she uses that might be true is one of the laziest ways of showing that you are absolutely biased against the news you have to report. The truth is irritating this woman.
And the goods aren't getting to the shelves when people...
Yeah, they are.
And people are hoarding items, for example, that they think they might not be.
How can you hoard items that aren't on the shelves? Who? Bring on I'm sorry. Is he a hoarder? And by the way, if you're going to show us backed up ships and all that kind of stuff, don't show 2 ships docked at a bunch of containers, because that's always what these fucking docks look like.
To get later, which only kind of exacerbates this problem.
Yeah, it's if the American people weren't such assholes, if they weren't listening to her and hoarding shit they don't need to hoard, we wouldn't have this problem. Do you understand what's happening here? Like, we haven't even gotten back to Karl Rove's reason. Why is she asking this asshole about this subject? I mean, obviously he's got some skills. He's been in politics for a long time. If you want to get into a war for oil or attack a country that didn't attack us, this is your dude. He can tell you 10 different ways to Sunday how to make that happen. What the fuck does Karl Rove know about supply chains?
And he's taking no responsibility for it. In fact, he's standing there and saying, I'm doing such a great job here.
No, he's saying there are challenges and we're handling it. And it's going surprisingly well considering. And we're going to keep at it. He's not doing these victory laps like Trump. Stop. Notice how this woman's ears receive the words that Biden has been saying. By the way, they didn't play the clip for a very good reason. They showed pictures of him talking. She paraphrases what he's saying, but they don't play what he's saying for a very specific reason.
Yeah. Well, first of all, what's the plan? We don't know what the plan is because they've never.
What the fuck is this? What's the plan? Who's in charge? NEC, Brian Deese. Department of Transportation, Pete Buttigieg. Treasury, Janet Yellen. Commerce, Raimondo. Someone's bunking me. What the fuck is this? Honest, yeah. Whose notes are that fucking big? Did he just tear that? That was like her notes next to the camera, and he tore it. Yeah, it's the 6 Commandments. Just tore it off the wall. What does this say again? I wore the wrong glasses today. He's trying to be the new Katie Porter. What's the plan? Who's in charge? Those people are in charge. What are you talking about? They're all involved in all these talks. They're all involved in each of these supply chain. Like, Buttigieg is, oh, fucking hell. Why do I have to always look up every goddamn thing? This is, let's see. This is the... So he's not, what's the plan? Who's in charge? Well, apparently, in terms of your list, we already looked at this one a while back. Pete Buttigieg hosts a roundtable on port stuff. That was in July. And by the way, since then, they've come up with solutions and brought the number of backed up ships down. Or they might have, I don't know, whatever. Buttigieg says U.S. supply chains will certainly continue. They've got, I mean, it's an ongoing problem. This is October 17th when he talked to him. AMP issues supply chain letter to DOT Secretary. Okay, let's see. AMP issues supply chain letter to DOT Secretary Buttigieg on reliable and resilient American maritime. Today, the American Maritime Partnership publicly released a letter to U.S. Secretary of Transportation Pete Buttigieg underscoring the continued reliability of America's domestic maritime services despite the current supply chain crisis. The America's maritime is providing certainty to American customers and consumers undeterred by supply chain disruptions and congestion impacting global shipping and major international U.S. ports. You see this part of the global shipping, particularly on the West Coast. While the supply chain issues pertaining to our import-export trades persist, the men and women of America's domestic maritime industry will continue to do our part to deliver for Americans, President of the American Maritime Partnership says. The current supply chain problems highlight once again the importance of maintaining a highly resilient and dedicated American supply chain for serving customers in our domestic markets. Good old Made in America. Remember when Trump was like, Made in America, we're going to make those words mean something again. And then he wrote a loophole specifically for people to get out of what it meant to be. Well, made in the Americas. I guess if you make it in Chile, if you make it in Guatemala, it's technically made in the Americas. Maybe we put the and the S really small.
Out a plan. Who's in charge of this issue? Who is the supply chain czar? They have a...
Asshole, it's transitory. We have people in charge of this. They're having overall meetings. There's no reason. It's a waste of fucking time. And by the way, in case you're wondering what he's actually arguing for, he's arguing for another level of bureaucracy. Yeah, small government conservatives, ladies and gentlemen. I give you Turd Blossom from the administration that was trying to drown our government in a bathtub. Small government conservatives who don't understand why we don't have a point czar on stuff when the president and his staff and these different agencies can handle their fucking part.
Supply Disruption Task Force. I dare you to name me a member of it or point to an instance other than their written July or June report of them saying anything about this issue. Is the National Economic Council in charge of this issue? Are they the ones calling together meetings of every...
No, they're on that board.
Is it the Department of Transportation, Pete Buttigieg, who
No, he deals with ports and all the internal domestic transportation issues in the supply chain. Why would you put the Department of Transportation head in charge of international trade and supply chain issues dealing with the EU?
Appeared for 4 or 6 weeks on maternity leave and didn't bother to tell the country or designate an operating officer in his place at DOT.
Yeah, there was nobody. I don't know if anybody knew that, but there was no one running the Department of Transportation. It completely shut down. If you went anywhere, if you tried to transportation anything, it would just disappear. There was nobody there. Knock on the door. It was a sign. Back in 4 months and a picture of him holding a baby. It was pathetic. I don't know how they even justify this whole thing.
Is it the Treasury Secretary?
Mm-hmm.
She's
No, the Treasury Secretary should not be in charge of dealing with material supply chains caused largely by the bottleneck of us getting most of our goods from China pre-COVID. What the fuck?
Around this issue. Is it the Commerce Secretary? No, there's nobody in charge of this except the President and Ron Klain.
Excuse me, dipshit? Sorry, Turd Blossom. What was that again?
Is it the Commerce Secretary? No, there's nobody in charge of this except the President and Ron Klain. And
Yes. Yes, the president is in charge of this. You know, the guy who just spoke about it and talked about the successes that they've made. Maybe it's something he does when Sean Hannity thinks he's doing nappy time.
Not doing anything. That's why they cannot lay out a plan.
He could put.
They did lay out a plan. The fuck are you talking about? You just talked about the plan they laid out in June. The plan is working. The plan is working. There are real challenges that have fuck all to do with us and our current situation that are not going to change. It's called reality. Within the scope of reality, there are things you can do to make something better, and there are things you just simply cannot do to change the reality. They established a plan to work on all the things they can change to help the current reality, and they established a plan to move us away from this circumstance again so we never find ourselves in this sole reality ever again. That's a fucking plan. Solve now what's broken now and solve for the future so that we're never broken like this again. That's exactly what you're asking for. That's exactly what the American people need. It's exactly what you would do if you're in charge. And it's exactly what you assholes just laid out accidentally.
Kamala Harris in charge of it the way he did with the border, and we know that she wouldn't be anywhere to be found either.
Zing! Fucking lazy.
Having said that, you know, inflation, Carl, we've been talking about it. You and I have been saying it is not transitory when these prices move up like this. It takes a very long time for them to come down. If they
ever do. Does it? Sorry, it takes a very long time for them to come down? You mean be transitory? Maybe it's your definition of transitory, ma'am, that's the issue. What do you think? A long weekend? Is that what that you solve a problem like COVID supply chain issues and the inflation caused by that lack of growth? You solve that in a long week. A couple, what is it? 6 weeks? 9 weeks, maybe? I mean, we have a complete shutdown of the entire global economy like this every couple weeks, don't we? And we just get over it. You know what I mean? It's like this argument about the debt ceiling. We have it all the fucking time. This isn't like a once-in-a-lifetime circumstance we find ourselves in.
And in fact, Jerome Powell acknowledged the fact 9 months later, since this problem started, that inflation is not transitory. Listen.
How long does inflation have to run above your target before the Fed decides maybe it's not so transitory?
I think it's probably a good time to retire that word and try to explain more clearly what we mean.
Okay, so it's...
Oh, okay. So transitory makes it sound is too short sounding a word. It's like a phase. Call it a phase we're going through because of COVID. And transitory just sounds too short term. But I'm sure they cut off what he was about to say right at that moment because that's all we needed to hear. You know what I mean? It got the point across.
To retire that word. The market certainly didn't like that. President Biden talking about it today. And he was asked about, he was compared to the Nixon and Carter administrations when they faced some inflation problems as well. He said this is very different because we're in the middle of a pandemic and the labor force is working with the corporations. And you could say that. That's one way, Carl, right?
Yes, you could say that because it might be true. It might, Carl, this might be true. It is fucking true. Hey, anybody remember the great worldwide pandemic of 1976? I remember that when all the planes were grounded and all the ships were sitting and all the factories weren't producing anything and everybody was at home. Remember all the masks we wore while we were discoing? I remember getting my first vaccine shot for COVID 76, which was the bicentennial of our nation's greatest infectious disease. I remember getting that one, and having a sore arm while I listened to Led Zeppelin 4. Fucking hell.
Corollary to that would be...
No, guys, somebody's like, I don't remember that. It didn't happen. That's my point. It did not occur. The inflation issues we had in the 70s were other market forces and other issues worldwide. And the economy of the United States right now versus the economy of 1977 bears as much resemblance to each other as steam engines to warp drive.
Labor force is demanding higher wages. The corporations are paying them at their expense, and that's only going to exacerbate the problem.
I'm sorry, what? The corporations are paying what, their employees at their expense? The fuck?
Their wages. The corporations are paying them at their expense, and that's only going to exacerbate the problem.
Yeah, that's the problem with, you give people more money, they got more money to spend, and then it's just going to chase inflation. Now, never mind the fact that we're using economic models and systems based on a national idea of what an economy and inflation is like instead of the international market for what stuff is, and that largely supply chains, when stuff is coming from foreign countries, defines the availability of products. And the United States, by easing tariffs, for example, on European goods and the like, could ease the cost overall and lower prices so that internally people don't jack up prices just to compete, or people don't use subsidiary distributors in the United States to raise the price on stuff while they sell it cheaper in Canada and shit like that. I mean, we could do that if we have, sensible people in the White House, which is what they're doing. Or we could just go by these assholes line, make lame Kamala Harris border jokes where the border is no longer a problem and is numerically right in line with 1997 numbers, a regular spike, but nothing compared. Same number, again, same number of physical people, but more people in the world. Population's gone up, the number of people crossing same as in like 97 or 95. So, never mind. That's not important. Let's follow. They were saying something about, AIDS ribbon, obviously. So, by the way, notice the picture book of horrors that Fox Business has decided to put up of the White House. And like the world's falling apart. We got supply chain issues. We're having to pay employees more money. The world is falling apart, and what's Biden doing? Taking pictures with black soldiers and women, and they got an AIDS ribbon on the fucking White House. What's this world coming to?
Absolutely. Look, we knew it was not going to be transitory when we saw the pattern of increases. Take, for example,
sorry, the pattern of increases. This is going to be good.
When President Biden came into office, we're actually seeing deflation. January of 2021 over January of 2020 was about a 3.5% decline in gasoline.
One more time.
Actually seeing deflation. January of 2021 over January of 2020 was about a 3.5% decline in gasoline prices. It's up 36% since the beginning of the year. You look at food, you look at energy, you look at housing.
By the way, what's driving inflation? What could it be? Doobity-doo. What's really driving inflation? Where's the chart? Here it is. This is a Census Bureau. Why is there so many ads on this? Why is inflation rising? Where's the 3 main causes of inflation? Let's see. What the 4 causes? Okay. Everybody's giving me definitions. Now, here we go. Look at this. Oh, my God. U.S. inflation hit a 31-year high in October as consumer prices jumped 6.2%. Core index was up 4.6% as pandemic-related supply shortages. And what's this one right here? Oh, dear God. Dear God. The horror. Dun, dun, dun. Strong consumer demand continues. Pandemic-related supply shortages. Strong consumer demand. Yes, Nothing says a collapsing economy like strong consumer. And this is year over year, so it's bullshit. We've done this a bunch of fucking times on this. U.S. inflation hit a 3-decade high in October, delivering widespread and sizable price increases in households for everything from groceries to cars due to persistent supply shortages. The consumer price, which measures the consumer goods value, increased in October 6.2 from a year ago when everything took a shit. Let's see. But let's look at fuel prices graph. 2018. Yeah, whoops. Okay, I could type 2018 to 21. Somebody will have there'll be a picture in here. Images. Boink. Put this picture in here. Gasoline and diesel pricing happening again. Here we go. Oops, I'm not paying for this. Get out of here. Okay. Usage and prices. Oh, this, god damn it. We had another chart that was also, let's see, worldwide chronology from 2021. There you go. Okay. Let's see. 2021. Here's the almost $3.04. This was in May to December. This was back earlier. So the idea is, there you go. This is 296, 304. Maybe they have a newer one. Colonial Pipeline shut down. Okay, this is the older one. And by the way, remember this? Remember when the pipeline was hacked? Let's see. There's got to be an updated one on this. Anyways, here's, let's see, 2020. There you might see what, this is a percentage, or dollar against this. So this is the money that oil companies lost last year. Look at that. That is the loss they are making up for this. Now, I don't suppose people are going to give us credit for the driving we didn't do last year. But can you see a corollary? Can you see, look at normal years. Here's 2019, here's 2020, 2018. Whoop, there we go. 2018 dropped near the end of the year in December. And then 2019 just chugged right along. This is worldwide supply fluctuation, and it's in this window right here. But see, this is last year. So anybody tells you that they want to give you this percentage rise between these two things, ask them for the percentage rise in April from 2019 to last year, or even 2019 to this year, and the rise in it to compensate for all the losses down here. That's what's happening. I mean, it's just, and again, this goes to the whole, like, we can't have a pipeline. We're not allowed to have a pipeline. That's our oil. It's not our oil. We don't nationalize our oil. We're not Venezuela. And the fact that these fuckos want us to be is so bizarre.
All of these things have been rising year over year, and they're pretty dramatic increases, as you indicated earlier.
Yeah.
And so the
year over year. And there you have it. Trump wants credit for all the price drops in 2020 because that were caused directly by disease. And I guess his shitty attention to the disease early in the pandemic could, you could largely say that if we had made special zones around our meatpacking plants and around shipping and took extra care for our trucking and all that kind of stuff, we wouldn't have had that kind of price drop. So sure, things would have just hummed right along. Let's see, 2020 price drop. Let's see. Yeah, here you go. This most commodity prices to drop in 2020. This is April of last year, amid pandemic, according to the World Bank. There you go. Remember this when they say year over year. Most commodity prices are expected to drop in 2020 amid the global economic shock of the COVID-19 pandemic. Oh, economic shock? You mean normal, the new normal? Almost all commodity prices saw sharp declines during the past. Oh, sorry. The what saw a sharp decline? Prices saw a sharp decline during the past 3 months as the COVID-19 pandemic worsened. That continued, by the way. This article's from April of 2020. Mitigation measures have significantly reduced transport, causing an unprecedented decline in demand for oil, while weaker economic growth will further reduce overall commodity demand. So, I think Fox Business needs to file this under shut the fuck up. Madness.
Administration saying transitory, it's no longer credible. And then again, what's the plan? What are they going to do to wring it out of the system?
Yeah, and I will just remind.
Wring it out of the system. Is that how you solve things back in the Bush administration? You wring it out of the system? I don't really think about Osama bin Laden anymore. We kind of wrang him out of the system. Mission accomplished.
Americans that oil prices are down roughly 20% from their October high, and that is very substantial, but you're not seeing that at the pump, and it has nothing to do with his SPR release because it's so minimal in this equation.
Hey, fucko, what do you mean his? That's the Strategic Petroleum Reserve. His. Now, this is another trick. This, fucking hell. This would be what they're talking about. President Biden announces release from the Strategic Petroleum Reserve as a part of an ongoing effort to lower prices and address lack of supply around the world. All around the world, same song. All around the world, I came to the party to get naughty, get my rocks on, eat popcorn. All right, sorry. Sometimes I have flashbacks to the Dan Aykroyd, Chevy Chase, Demi Moore movie, Nothing But Trouble. It happens. Digital Underground is in it. So is Tupac, one of the lost Tupac performances. All right. Let's see. In large part due to the American Rescue Plan, we got this. Even so, American consumers are feeling the impact of elevated gas prices. Today, the president announcing the Department of Energy will make available releases of 50 million barrels of oil from the Strategic Petroleum Reserve to lower prices for Americans and address the mismatch between demand exiting the pandemic and supply. The president has been working with countries across the world to address the lack of supply as the world exits the pandemic. And as a result of Biden's leadership and our diplomatic efforts, this release... What's this? What's this part? He's just dropping the bucket? Yeah, if he did it by himself. If he was a go-it-alone president like Trump, and the people at Fox News can't fucking factor in a single thought. Where that's how, how could you possibly run a White House differently than some sort of like broken loner who's always out for himself? This release will be taken in parallel with other major energy-consuming nations, including China, India, Japan, Republic of Korea, and the United Kingdom. The EU countries are also doing it. Germany and France were doing it too. They added on. This culminates weeks of consultation with countries around the world. Sounds like there's some planning going on. And we're already seeing the effects of this work on oil prices. Over the last several weeks, though, as the reports of this work have become public, oil prices are down 10%. 32 million barrels will be exchanged over the next several months. 18 million barrels will be an acceleration in the next several months on the sale of oil that Congress has previously authorized. We will replenish what is in there off of the amount that oil companies that use our lands to pump oil give us in lieu of direct cash payment, whichever is more profitable for the United States. By the way, could she know this? I mean, like I said, she works at Fox Business. Probably not. What is there any reason why he wouldn't know this? Of course not. He's been in the White House. Bullshit.
Pointed out, this really has to do with the fact that the markets are worried again about demand problems with respect to the administration and its policies and Omicron.
Absolutely. There's a big reason why the markets are down, and that is because the president said, don't worry too much about this, and it caused us thereby to worry. The administration, again, is making the problem worse, not making the problem less problematic for the American people.
I mean, well said. I mean, did he go to Wharton as well? Is there a class on how to say nothing while using the same word over and over?
Carl Rove, thank you so much. Good to see you.
Thank you for fucking nothing. Oh, good God. How when we use our reserves that way, do we actually sell it to the oil companies? Sort of. It goes in multiple ways. So I was kind of getting to that, but I'll... in the oil exchange, they can buy those at a lower price. So the processing of it is cheaper. Sometimes they won't pass along. A lot of times they're not passing along the savings to people because they're making up for the losses last year. 32 million barrels will be in exchange over the next several months, releasing oil that will eventually return to the strategic petroleum reserve in the years ahead. The exchange is a tool to match to today's specific economic environment, where markets expect future oil prices to be lower than they are today, and helps provide relief to Americans immediately and bridge to that period of expected lower oil prices. The exchange also automatically provides for restocking of the strategic petroleum reserve over time to meet future needs. 18 million barrels will be an acceleration into the next several months of a sale of oil that Congress had previously authorized. So they do this anyways. They top off what's in there as well. So it'll enter the U.S. market for purchase solely, the American exchange, instead of the open markets, as it were. And so all these other countries will do it as well. Therefore, it'll drive down the prices of oil, specifically the major exporters, Russia and the Middle East, which is pissing them off, which is why you've got this asshole and this lady bitching about this same thing. Now, that was a 5-minute clip, and that took me longer than I thought because there was so much bullshit in there. Let's go straight to ridiculous. I mean, the other one that made me laugh immediately. By the way, don't forget to like and subscribe. Look, I'm remembering to tell everybody. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Give a thumbs up. Leave a comment. Engage. Even if you're a troll, just try to be a decent human being, or otherwise you'll use awful language and you'll get kicked out. And that's out of my control. It's kind of automated. But you let YouTube and the Twitch algorithm know how awesome I am. Every word you type in the chat is a feather in my cap, and I have a very feathery cap these days. Yeah. In the meantime, though, also on twitch.tv/AlSparks, please subscribe. Helps out immensely. Or become a patron, patreon.com/AlSparks, and there's Venmo. That's always easier. Take a picture of that with your phone, and then just send me $1. Send me $1 for every laugh noise you make. No, you guys would be broke by the end of every show. All right, here we go. Yes, I do have a pimp hat made of feathers. So this one I like the title on. I went on Hannity and crushed elf bureaucrat Fauci last night! ! Crushed, folks. He's crushing it. And by it, we mean his windpipe, of course, with that tie. But, because apparently I've never seen anyone look that uncomfortable. Neutral. Like, milk without gas. This ad's taking a long time. Carbon neutral organic whole milk. That's what's running on Rumble, is friggin' hilarious. Now at Whole Foods. That's lovely. Look at that. Neutral milk. That sounds like it makes you sterile. I'm just saying. I know it doesn't, but come on.
With a Napoleonic...
Guys, by the way, I'm selling a book. What do you think he's on there to sell the book? His dad's every fucking where. If you need more evidence, guys, if you need more evidence that Trump is broke as fuck, They are doing a hard press on this goddamn book this year. And Trump is on Nigel Farage doing an interview. He's on Fox and Friends calling in. Here's Brian Kilmeade going deaf. She's having a great time. He's going, why the fuck are we still getting this guy? But he's got, he's sporting his Trump neck gina. I think that's a good move. But they're all selling the shit out of this picture book because they got nothing.
Complex bureaucrat Fauci, everything that he said in his emails contradicts what he said on TV. He doesn't know what he's talking about. He's a bureaucrat. He's not a good doctor. He's better at being a bureaucrat.
All right, joining us now, Donald Trump Jr. Don't forget, by the way, now this new photo book by President Trump, Our Journey Together, is available at 45books.com. I did not know until tonight that yours truly is actually in it. And I was like, oh, no.
Oh, no, now I've got to sue for a part of that because it's a picture from Fox, and now we've got this legal thing, and nobody checked with me, and the lady that's in it with me isn't my wife, and she's not even technically an adult woman, and don't worry about it. I've got the negatives. We'll burn them.
Because I know he wrote the captions. I'm like, oh, no, I'm going to get hit hard. And
Oh my God. There's only 3 hands. Where's your other hand, Sean? Oh my God.
Moon River.
That's
Thank you, Doc. You ever serve time?
This is the picture they picked. Oh, I can't. Oh, that's.
Thank you, Doc. You ever serve time?
Look at. Oh, God. When is this picture taken? They both look like they were. Hannity looks like he just got done blowing him. You're like, I had to take my tie off for this. You're a total professional. Oh my God.
Just looking around here, I can tell you're a genuinely dirty person.
That is awful. Trump, first of all, that's a table or chair or something behind his right hip, which makes him just look fatter. The other thing is that because Trump has a tie on and Hannity doesn't, look at Hannity's gut. They did not ask. Oh, God. Oh, they didn't go, hey, can you mind if he did not get photo clearance. And by the way, if you want more proof that Hannity's staff fucking hates him, the fact that they put it up is amazing. Look, and just the embarrassment of
actually really nice.
Sean, your caption.
It's actually really nice. Sean, your caption. Please show the caption. Please.
Was great. I think you look great in the photo. We had to include some of our favorite Fox personalities, so you look great in the book, Sean. It was a really fun project, actually. It was sort of interesting, and you're well aware of so many of these stories that.
Okay, this is at some point. Hold on. Am I missing? Where's this guy? Hold on. Nope. Damn it. I'm looking. Hold on. All I gotta say is, you fellas got a purty mouth. Run that back. Come on. I need to see that picture again. That is some sexy sauce. He's a handsome man. Look at those handsome menses. Oh, boy, that's fun. Look at you by the stairs. Oh, that's good stuff. And you're hanging out there, and his right hand is somewhere down where we all wish it could be. You know what I'm saying? When you try to reach in there and stuff like that, man, I wish I had both those cardboard cutouts. And what I would do is I would duct tape them to a rubber doll well, it's a long story. I learned a long time ago not to staple them. Don't use a staple gun on your blow-up doll. That's I have that on a Post-it on my bathroom mirror. Well, the shards of it. It was quite a night. But most people do not know I was at this party. Okay. I had the joy and the pleasure. I was down, they had a septic issue, and I was down there. I brought in about 18 feet of barge rope and some steel wool and some lighter fluid, and I was down in the basement working. And sometimes it was a very tough job, and I was very expensive, and it was very expensive area. I was very nervous to be down there doing it, and when I'm nervous, I smoke, and I forgot that the steel wool added to the corrosive chemicals I was using was flammable. They will inflame at certain times. And damned if I didn't. I was one second I was in the basement. Next time I'm up standing covered in soot next to a dude serving canapes. I'm like, I think I'll try some of those. And then somebody, right at that moment, somebody said, would you mind? I have to take the second biggest shit of my life. And so I was like, do you need a spotter? And he goes, no, I'm taking pictures. I'm a photographer. Could you take this picture? And he handed me this nice professional camera. It was shiny, brand new. One of these Lebanese models or something like that. And I lifted this thing up, and through the viewfinder, what did my wandering eyes would appear to see? Oh, buddy. 2.5 of my favorite people in the whole world. Because they're all, Trump and Hannity are two people who can go to a party alone and still cover their +1. I'm going to kill myself laughing. Almost did. That lasted about 1/10 of a second of a minute of a half. Anyways, I got all these. We took a bunch more. I don't know why they picked that one. I think Junior picked that one because he was like, I took so many. Sean wasn't breathing. I was like, dude, breathe and take a breath. Shit. And he's like sucking his gut in. And then right as he was like, all right, I'll breathe in. And he did like that, and his bug breathed right down into his belly, right into his hind legs, into his heels, right down in his tailbone, running up over his shoulders, the breath entering his body, and it all anchored right in his gut right there, like a good man with and I pow, got him right there. Got him. Gotcha, Sean. Oh, buddy. So much fun. Too much. All right. There we go. Shit. Look at Sean Hannity's fucking face. He's fanboying.
Nice.
Sean, your caption was great. I think you look great in the photo. We had to include our,
Yeah, he's not convinced. Look at his face. Look at that. Yeah. You had to take the fat picture, didn't you? You had to fucking make me look like shit next to your dad. Next time, remind me to breathe in sync with your dad so we both have our bellies out and in at the same time. Fucking, shit. I swear to God, like if it wasn't Trump, they'd have sent a cease and desist already.
Favorite Fox personality, so you look great in the book, Sean. It was a really fun project, actually. It was sort of interesting, and you're well aware of so many of these stories.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. It was sort of interesting. This whole like this is the only time I've ever spent with my dad bullshit. Hey Gonzo. Shit. It was sort of interesting. God damn
the
it.
mainstream media wouldn't report, but a picture says 1,000 words. And I remember going through over the last few months with my father some of the great pictures of his presidency, the accomplishments.
And some of the 1,000 words that this picture says is stay away from the cheese.
Media wouldn't report, but a picture says 1,000 words. And I remember going through over the last few months with my father some of the great pictures of his presidency, the accomplishments.
Oh God, the fucking fact that it has to be a picture book is just. Oh God. Did you hear nobody will publish the book? Yeah, no, they had to do it their own. They started their own publishing company and just paid for it to get printed.
And honestly, we said, we got to put together something with this. He started scribbling notes on some of them, thinking about it for other purposes. And we said, no, just leave that. And so we put together this incredible book.
Yeah, don't do any more work than you absolutely have to. Our sucker fans will buy whatever shit we throw out. You know how Obama's White House photographer put a bunch of really great pictures on his Instagram, and you could just kind of like copy those, and if you liked them, and just have them and print them because it's just real. And he had a coffee table book himself. He didn't share any of the profits with the president because that's fucking weird. They look at that guy as lazy and lame and unbusinesslike, whereas this is how you make money. Fleece your fools.
Together, details the entire presidency. It's just a beautiful coffee table book. And I think people can really see all of the stories and capture all of the emotion and difference that he made in the lives of Americans. All of those policies that help.
Yeah, that especially that picture. How he improved the lives of people while giving the Olympic fist in the air on the top stair of Air Force One as he was leaving. The fuck? You know, people at home who are struggling to put food on the table because they made too little money to participate in the tax cut he gave. Those people can look at this book and use it as a coffee table because their furniture's been repossessed. And in it will be pictures they can relate to, like that picture of him in Marine One flying past the Alps or some shit.
Lift our entire country that has been decimated in the last 10 months by the incompetence of the Biden administration.
Yeah, we don't even have a constitution anymore. I don't know if you guys knew that. Yeah, we don't. There's no economy. Everything's gone. Yeah, don't go outside. Country's gone. Yeah, I know the airports seem busy this holidays, and a lot of people were like smiling and eating food. That's a lie. Those are all cardboard cutouts. It's all fake. It's all big. We've been decimated. America's over. America's done. If you see an American flag, try to save it because you could sell it on eBay in a few years, like Beanie Babies or some shit.
Really fun project to work on. Unfortunately,
it was a really fun project to work on as our country was being decimated. Hey, fuckhead, if you're gonna make the case that our country is falling apart, maybe, just maybe, don't say you were involved in a fun project as the country allegedly collapsed. If that makes sense.
Juxtaposed against what's going on in the world right now. I just said, man, we had it so good for so long, and I think America feels that now. I think they recognize how...
No, I understand now. Your family felt that because they were avoiding prosecution on a bunch of shit, and being having your dad be president was one of the greatest ways to avoid that temporarily. I would say that period of being able to avoid the law was, what's the word for it that I'm looking for? It could pluck it out of the air. It's a word I've heard recently. Transitory would be the word.
They've been lied to by the mainstream media. So it was really awesome. I mean, even some of the stories that I wasn't aware of, and I'm aware of a lot as it related to what he was doing, it was really cool to see it and to go through it with him and to put this together so that America could experience this in their own living rooms themselves.
Yeah, that's what we're going to experience it in our own living rooms. Gather around, everybody. Fuck the Bible and Christmas and Charlie Brown specials and any of that shit. Everybody come into the living room and gather around while we flip through pictures of some rich asshole and his rich friends who was president for one term, during which, according to him, America was attacked with a bioweapon that he let slide while he was making a trade deal with the people that allegedly sent it over here, and then he sold them all our beef, corn, and soybeans.
Biden, in the candidate protection program in the 2020 campaign in his basement bunker, any president, 220,000 Americans.
In his basement bunker. Why does that sound familiar about 2020? Whoops, sorry. There's something about this. Something about there was a. Now I'm trying to think. There was something about somebody. There was a candidate in a bunker, basement bunker. Why does that sound familiar? I can't. Something about bunker and the people. I don't know. One of the I don't remember. It'll come to me.
Had died at that point, the worst pandemic since 1917 and 18. Since he's
Hal, remember when Republicans attacked Michelle Obama for saying how she was finally proud to be an American? These guys are bashing America, real patriotic. Am I right? I know it's nonstop. These fuckers think America is A, fragile, and B, fucked.
President, a whopping 355,000 Americans have died from COVID-19. More.
No, not more than last year. No, 400,000 on Inauguration Day. You don't get to pick the lying number that the administration put out that was downplaying the number by almost 60% in the count in some instances, and say that compared to the lies last year. This is like blaming Obama for the cost of the Iraq War because he finally put the under the table costs on top of the fucking table.
In 2020, but your father handed Joe Biden not one, not two, but 3 vaccines, monoclonal antibodies, and then you tie it to the whole border where now we give preferential treatment. No testing, no vaccine mandates to illegal immigrants, and Joe Biden supporting.
Yeah. Why don't we have a system in place where we test people before they sneak across the border? Why don't we have people in Mexico checking papers before people sneak into the country? Why don't we have a system in place? Where's the pre-crime bureau of the Border Patrol that should be down there testing people before they do anything? I know. Let's test everyone in Honduras, Guatemala, and Mexico at American taxpayers' expense, just in case they decide to make a run for the border.
If people tried to enter this country illegally and they separated somehow from their family, they want to give them a check for $450,000. Now.
Oh, no, Sean. Somehow. What was that again? What was that again, fuckhead? If people tried to enter this country illegally and they separated somehow from their family, they want to. If they separated somehow from their family. Well, what's that somehow, Sean? What was that? Was it just anybody who got separated? Because lots of people got separated. Lots of people we wouldn't even know if they were separated. Hell, they wouldn't even know if their relatives got in or didn't get in. Is it just everybody who got separated just because they were temporarily? How long? Transitory separation, Sean? Or was it the fact that we lost their fucking kids? don't give me this pro-life bullshit when the Trump administration dumps 8,800 children on the Mexican side of the border unaccompanied, going, your parents must be here somewhere, fuck off. And over 800 children in the United States separated from their parents because of the Stephen Miller, Donald Trump policy were lost to the bureaucracy because you didn't bother to keep track. Somehow. Just fucking somehow. They were somehow lost. Hey, Sean, how many of those people that were separated since Biden's been president in that system? Now, people have been separated since then because when an adult comes in with a child, we check to make sure as best we can that that child belongs with that adult and they're not just being abducted or some other shit. And we talk to authorities in other countries. There's a process, and it's a big one. But Democrats aren't afraid of bureaucracy when it's necessary to save lives and protect children, especially. So we know where they fucking are.
A check for 450 grand. Now, tell me where any of that makes sense.
I just did, you dirtbag. And what I mean, the fact that this fuckhead is smiling about missing children is gross.
Sean, it doesn't, but it doesn't matter because the Democrats have the advantage of having mainstream media, $1 trillion industry, social media, $1 trillion industry, big tech, $1 trillion industry, all.
And all the Republicans have is this broke fuck and his deeply in debt father who owes his ass to worldwide criminals. Yeah, somehow the Democrats, the Marxist, commie Democrats, have somehow, even though we're snowflakes and have no leadership and would bend over in front of Kim Jong-un or Xi Jinping or anything, somehow we have taken over $3 trillion industries, while this dipshit is hawking a flip book on Hannity's show.
Functioning as their marketing department. But what's really nice is I think they've blown it so bad.
Oh, yeah. Sorry. We've taken over $3 trillion industries, and that's just our marketing department. You should see the factory.
They took so many things, whether it's energy independence and lying to the face of the American people. I remember very clearly, we're not going to end fracking. We're not going to do that day one. Okay, you have the Afghanistan.
Sorry. Did we end fracking day one? I'm sorry. Did fracking stop? We don't have natural gas anymore. We're not using it. That got cut off. That just stopped. That's all over. That's all over. Hold on. U.S. natural gas pipelines. Images. Yeah. These are the natural gas pipelines in the United States. Interstate in blue, intrastate in red, internal ones. The red ones are just inside the state. The blue ones are cross state lines. Look at Louisiana, just kicking ass, delivering that natural gas. Look at it. Here's Pennsylvania. Can you tell where fracking is going on? Do you have a generalized idea where most of the fracking is happening in this particular? Hold on, it's got to be in here.
You're gonna frack,
right? API. Where are the pipelines? This is good. About this guy. These are the large ones: crude, natural gas, refined gasoline, and then CO832. There you go. That's the blue one. There's very few of those. These are just the big pipelines, the big transitory pipelines. These are all the mix of the little ones, and then the ones that go in between the extraction sites and or the ports and the actual refineries and the like. internally. I don't know how. Let's see. When was this one put out? This is natural gas pipelines. There we go. Let's see. I'm sure. Hang on. Let's see. Let's see. Fracking output U.S. 2021. It's probably gone down a lot. It's probably. U.S. Energy Information Administration analysis and projections overview. Is this still loading? Shit. Back up. Try this again. There you go. Short term. Okay. I'll get the smaller one. These pages are large. Okay. Short-term energy outlook, U.S. Energy Information. We forecast annual production will average 11.1 million barrels per day 2021, increase to 11.9 million barrels per day 2022 as tight oil production rises in the thing. Sorry for the unexpected error. There we go. What is the status? Fracking has been safely used in the United States since 1947. More than 1.7 million U.S. wells have been completed using the fracking process, producing more than 7 billion barrels of oil and 600 trillion cubic feet of natural gas. Let's see. How much U.S. energy comes from nationally? Fracking produces 2/3, 67% of the natural gas in the United States, according to the U.S. Energy Information Administration, approximately 50% of the nation's oil. Is your natural gas actually fracked? That's a good question.
You're gonna frack.
These are all like different sites on this. Okay. Let's see. In 2021, U.S. shale may surprise oil markets again. History shows that those who underestimate the U.S. shale sector do so at their peril, according to Forbes. That doesn't stop many experts from writing off shale, believing that low prices, high well decline rates, and investor demand for capital efficiency have effectively neutered shale's growth potential. These fundamentals existed before COVID-19. The pandemic has only increased the pressure. Shale could have the last laugh, though, outperforming expectations on the back of lower break-even costs. The U.S. Energy Information Administration, OPEC, and the International Energy Agency underestimated shale's growth potential last decade. That's because nobody was doing it, and it looked like a stupid idea, and of course it caught up. It was filed under, why the fuck would you do that, about a decade ago. These organizations now all predict U.S. production to decline or grow very slowly over the next few years. Why would you do that? Why would they expect that? Because there's a lot of other oil to get out of the ground that doesn't require the shale process on the in the U.S. territories, unlike Canada, where most of their oil is in the shale oil stuff. All right, never mind. The EIA expects U.S. output to drop from 12.2 million barrels a day in 2019 to 11.3 barrels a day in 2020 and 11.1 million barrels a day in 2021. Recent data shows output on the rise, though. What? Recent data? What? My goodness. Who would ever think, who would ever believe this was such a thing? All right. Do you want the
Brawl? I don't know that we've
thing?
seen a worse incident in our country in the last century, where we're abandoning Americans behind enemy lines, giving said enemy lists of people and biometric data that they can track them down. You have killing an.
Yeah, are there any reports of any of that shit happening? Seriously, where are these people? Where are these audio recordings of Americans trapped behind enemy lines in Afghanistan, calling into Glenn Beck's show, hoping for a helicopter drop? Like, what the fuck?
Pipelines while giving Russia, that we, as my father's administration, did a great job blocking it. So then we can give NATO more money to protect them from the Russians that they're enriching with the.
Oh, I see. This is the Nord Stream. So one of the ways, well, never mind the fact that when Russia has to ship their, let's see, news on this one. this is Reuters. This is one of the stories that's coming around. European insurers fear sanctions coming down the Nord Stream 2 pipe. You see, when Russia can use boats and has to use boats to get its energy into Europe, if we want to stop it, we have to blockade ships to do it. Ships with people on them. We have to put our ships with people on them in front of these ships to stop them from coming in. Or we have to sanction ports in these countries where it's arriving. Whereas now, if Russia puts all of its eggs in one basket, we can cut a hole in that basket and they're fucked. There is a strategic reason to allow Nord Stream to go through because it is easier to fuck with than a bunch of boats. And on top of that, European insurers are wary of sanction and geopolitical risks. Nord Stream 2 says it has appropriate assurances in place, of course. Insurers say they respect sanctions. Some have pulled out. Boing, 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 just so you know. A simmering threat of sanctions against the operator of the $11 billion Nord Stream 2 pipeline risks shutting off cover from European insurers for the politically sensitive project to bring Russian gas directly to Germany. Kremlin-backed energy giant Gazprom leads the consortium, which, despite stiff opposition from the U.S., what? Stiff opposition from the U.S.? I thought we were just totally cool with it. And some European nations, has built a pipeline under the Baltic Sea, bypassing Ukraine amid a geopolitical battle for influence in the region, which won't fucking affect anything, ultimately. That's hence the move towards gas cars and other shit. Like, it's silly. The U.S., this is a 10-year plan, folks. Gazprom will be useless and will be a huge waste of money in 10 years. The U.S. stepped up sanctions on companies linked with the project last week. What? We did what now? Oh, thanks for the link, guys. Maybe it's here? This has got to be from, November 16, 20. German regulator puts brakes on Nord Stream 2 in fresh blow to gas pipeline. Ouch. It couldn't be that there's a lot more going on than what could fit in this dipshit's brain. We've heard all this before. Can I jump over? Can I just go to the Farage thing? It's long. So, shit. Derp. I hope he got a picture in the book. Hi, Nigel. Derp. And the winner of the English Looking as Fuck Award. That's it. Oh, by the way, Nigel, great choice of photos. That's probably in the book. Guess where this thumb was? That's the question everybody wants the answer to. Right there you go.
River. Yeah. Thank you, Doc. You ever serve time?
Don't forget to give a thumbs up, like, and subscribe. Thanks, Nigel, for reminding everyone.
Drop your shorts and bend over, Mr. Babar.
All right. So, here we go. Music from... Ooh, that was cold. Farage got billing above Trump. What the fuck was that? The red-faced one. That's what I actually looked back on. What the fuck is that? Looks like a horror movie. You know, there's a story going around right now that demonologists think the White House is haunted by the dead son of one of our past presidents. There's a case to be made from this picture.
From the moment in 2015 when he announced he was going to run to become US President, Donald Trump.
And from the moment he fucking lost the last election, and we're here to remind him all night long that he's no longer president, and we're telling old war stories while he tries to sell his book because he desperately needs fucking money in a house that's so much nicer than anything he's ever fucking sat in because he's a low-rent, second-generation rich kid with shit taste, Donald Trump.
Has been in world news. He's dominated world news every day for 5 years, all over the world.
Yeah, kind of like the Cold War and COVID and anthrax and John Wayne Gacy.
Donald Trump has said this. Donald Trump is alleged to have said that, and what other people said about him. Yet something very odd has...
Please tell me they dance at the end of this. Please tell me they both stand up and, like, he didn't even get a fucking table in this. At least Lindell gave him a fucking table. What is this? Is this supposed to be... Oh, hi. How are you, my love? Oh, look at that. Yummy, yummy. Mwah. This is going to be a long one. I will be along in a moment. She brought dumplings home. Oi, 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 oi. All right.
Since the beginning of this year, outside the United States, he's virtually disappeared. Has he been signed?
You're not making him very happy. Nigel, you are not... hold on. I have to... Hold on. There's got to be something in here. I'm looking for something. Whoops, why do I...
Is it voluntary? What is going on? Well, today, we're going to find out.
Has he fucking he's fucking disappeared. No one knows what he's doing. He's like it's almost like he doesn't fucking matter anymore. Oh, yeah.
We're going to break that. And the first big foreign interview that Donald Trump has done, this is Trump Speaks to the World with me, Nigel Farage, here on GB News. Good to see you.
GB News, which is, God blimey news. God blimey news.
Well, I didn't know I was so quiet, but if you say so, that's okay with me.
Oh, the insults. Oh, they come subtle. It's very dry. The British love you. You know, tonight our guest is someone that many thought no one would ever hear from again. Someone that has been said in many circles to no longer be interesting or effective on world levels. As a matter of a laughing stock, some have called him. My special guest tonight, Donald Trump. Welcome, Donald.
I wonder, is that because of social media to a very, very large extent?
I don't know. I mean, I have not heard that, but it's possibly so. I have a lot of things to say, and sometimes I want to say them, and sometimes I don't feel it's appropriate to say them based on the position. We had a great election. We ended up, it was a rigged election, unfortunately. We got more.
Yeah, it was a great, as rigged elections go, it was great.
Than any sitting president in history by far, 75 million votes.
Yeah, but also, and that was largely due to mail-in voting and the fact that we were all sitting at home and we didn't have much else to do. People it was like people were voting like it was a fucking new hobby that they were interested in. And unfortunately, Biden stomped a mud hole in you and marched it dry.
More than 12 million that we had from the previous election, which was about 63 million votes.
Yeah, and everything was going well until someone came in and stole our table. Have you seen our waiter? Why do all the Trump interviews look like restaurants cleared out around him rather than leave? Like everybody in the fucking place went, you know what, we're gonna go. We'll move outside. You know what I mean? Like the Lindell interview was the same way. Like this big empty fucking room for no goddamn reason. Like, what is happening?
I think we've said a lot about a lot of things, and certainly there's a lot to talk about if you look at what's going on in Afghanistan with the
also generic things. Oh,
God. Which was, I think, the most embarrassing moment in the history of our country. And you look at our borders, what's happening with our borders. You look at the cost of energy. We were energy independent, and we no longer are. You look at so many different things. You and I could talk all day.
Yeah.
And it's a shame.
Yeah, do it though. Except talk with him, not at him. But please.
What's happened to the United States?
But we've not heard you through Twitter. It was for you, something that you used to massive effect. Oh, Jack Dorsey is being removed as CEO of Twitter because of shareholder.
No, he stepped down because of shareholders.
Sure, but whether that means they'll improve as a channel or not. I mean, I was amazed the day that the Taliban, you mentioned Afghanistan a moment ago, the day the Taliban took over Kabul, I did put out a message that said it seemed ridiculous that their leadership was still active on Twitter, and yet you were still banned.
Well, they were wrong in what they did, and
Yes, it's kind of fucked up when the Taliban can understand the terms of service and stay on a website and Trump can't. Can you imagine having less impulse control than the Taliban?
With the United States president, who's obviously a popular president based on everything that you see, and them and Facebook, and I think they made a big mistake. I think if they had it to do over again, they wouldn't be doing it.
Well, they can do it over again in a millisecond. Your account's still digitally archived. They could turn it on. They could flip it on like a switch, fucko. That means with every second that ticks by, that's another no. Just nope, 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 nope. If they had to do it all over again, well, they can. Any minute. Literally. They could do it right now. We could all be sitting here watching my show, and they could go, oh, Trump's back on Twitter. He's not going to be. But they could. Knock yourself out. Ask. Sue them.
We get the voice out. We have to do it. We have an obligation to do that. But
yes, yeah, get the voice out. It's an obligation. It is.
He's leaving. I guess it was probably enforced because they're down, and also there's no excitement on Twitter anymore, as I understand it.
Well, you wouldn't know because you're not there. Do you hang out? Do you like stand in the corner of a bar? Like, all right, you can stand on the patio, Donald, but you can't come in the bar. Nobody goes in there anymore, anyways. I don't even like the music they're playing. Yeah, everybody's dancing, but they're not really dancing.
Well, a lot of excitement. Not only me, conservative people are leaving and being canceled. So they're canceled, they're leaving, and in my case.
Oh, you mean like Ben Shapiro? No, he's still on. Candace Owens? No, she's still on. Larry Elder? No, he's still on. Shit. Who else has been? The dudes from The Quartering, they're still on. Devin Tracy, he's still on. He's not really a conservative, but you know what I mean. Let's see. Yeah, conservatives are getting broomed off, except all the ones that are still on there who've managed to say everything politically that you supposedly are for, but not encourage violence. Those people are still on. Just, whatever.
We used to get tremendous interaction with liberals and everybody else, and now they just say it's a very boring place.
Yes, tremendous interaction. You know, when you tweet out that you're going to change the policy of the DOD so that trans people can't serve anymore, and then you get, what comes from something like that is tremendous interaction with liberals.
Twitter, it's going down. The numbers are going way down.
No, they are. On the election, as you say, you got 11 million votes more than you got in 2016.
Yeah, it's totally going down. Everything's going down. But Getter's on the rise. How's Truth Social, by the way? We haven't heard much about that. Let's see. Trump's... This is, obviously, this is what's going to knock them all on their ass. This is going to be a... Let's see. Trump SPAC social media company appears to miss its first product deadline. Trump's social media site quietly admits it's based on Mastodon. Based on. You mean stole the software behind? Yeah, okay. Trump's social media venture seeks $1 billion raise, sources. Seeks? Yeah? Trump Truth Social has missed its November beta app launch deadline. Well, what's a couple of missed beta deadlines when you're trying to show a proof of concept to get $1 billion? Does anyone have $1 billion? Former President Donald Trump's new social media venture is seeking to raise up to $1 billion by selling shares to hedge funds and family offices at several times the valuation it commanded in a deal with the blank check acquisition firm in October. Two people familiar with the matter said, yeah, good luck with that. I could totally see that happening. It's going to happen. $1 billion? It's 2 weeks away. In 2 weeks, they'll have a beta version.
Because we know what happened. 29th of February last year, I was with you backstage at CPAC, and I thought he's going to win 40 states. Things were looking terrific. The pandemic hit.
And it was looking great. The U.S. had entered a recession already, and had the pandemic not hit, we would have gone through a recession the entirety of last year anyways, and he would have pretended it wasn't his problem and lost. because he was fucking annoying.
And then you kind of got criticized from both sides. Biden said you were xenophobic because you closed the borders. You said we don't want foreign air.
Yeah, that wasn't why. He said he was xenophobic as a human being, not because of those particular actions. He was concerned that Trump's xenophobic reflexes would also inform his response to COVID, which it did. See, Nigel, you know English. You know how English works.
We don't want this virus being brought in. The other side said you didn't lock down hard enough. I mean, difficult in a pandemic to win as a president, as a leader. But the real effect, of course, was...
Yeah, especially when you're trying to complete a trade deal with the country that the disease originated in, and therefore you have to pretend it's no big deal for months.
For the first time ever in America, tens of millions of ballots
of tables went missing,
being sent out through the mail system.
Well, they use COVID, or the China virus, as I call it, to rob and rig and steal an election. And they sent out millions and millions of ballots. Nobody knows where they went in so many cases, and it was a disgrace.
Yeah, nobody knows where they went. Well, then how do you rig an election if you don't know where the ballots are going? I get what you're trying to sell here, but what the fuck? Honest to God, like, at least say the Democrats sent them out to all these people and they had this organized effort. You can't just go, they sent them out and nobody knows where they went. Yes, they were applications. We know this. It's a good point, Casbah. But the applications to get your ballot, your mail-in ballot, and then they sent them out after you'd requested them, or they sent them in, because you didn't have to in places like Colorado and other states. You didn't have to request them. You just had to, you didn't have to file it in a certain amount of time and you would get one. In California, they mailed them out, for example, but you obviously had to know where they were going, because you can't just rig an election by mailing piles of them anywhere, because what the fuck happens if you mail them to an area where there's a bunch of Trump supporters? Look at these piles of ballots. Why don't we fill them out? It's almost like that's what happened in Texas and Florida and Ohio and Tennessee and Kentucky and, oh dear God, places like that. It's almost as if you could track it to that very moment that maybe there was an enormous amount of fraud going on and Trump was actually behind all of it, and he knew that. And the sending out of the ballots by the states was actually worse in Republican states, maybe. I don't know where you would think that was a possibility. All right.
And everybody knows it. You look at even polls now, a big percentage of our country knows it, and it's very bad for democracy. Very, very bad for
the problem was in so many of these states, because they'd never seen it before, kind of what they did in collecting the votes wasn't against the law, and that was part of the problem.
Well, but they didn't get it approved in many cases by legislatures, and you have to, so therefore...
No, they don't. They do not have to in these circumstances. The emergency powers of almost every state, and certainly the ones that they've been bitching about, all cover the ability to do this. And if you would like proof, let's see, do I have my shit? I've got to get my, always have to end up getting I bring my iPad and then I forget my iPad, and then I don't bring my iPad and I don't have an iPad. Many of you may recall that I had gone through one of the Georgia voting laws to show everybody that a lot of what they were trying to do had nothing to do with black voters, voters of color, and areas like that. They were the laws that are being passed largely are designed to quell the fears of Trump voters and get them voting again. All right, so I went through this bill and was pulling pieces out of it that kind of stuck out to me. And there was, let's see. I'll find the part. I think it's in the beginning of it. Aha. Now, why? Take this guy. Send this to here, to that. And the theory is it was illegal for them to do this. It was illegal, right? They were doing this. They didn't consult the legislature. They didn't have the right to do it in Georgia, and they just sailed ahead. Okay, if that was true, then you would just make the case that it was illegal, and you would, in the case of, by making that case, you wouldn't have to modify the law around it already because the law would already be standing. You would not be allowed to send ballots out, without applications and, modify the deadlines in an emergency situation without bringing the legislature together, having them vote on the new changes and doing it that way. Now, no state has a situation where that's a reality, especially a state where they have hurricanes or bad weather, because that would be ridiculous. So you got flooding throughout the state. It happens during an election time. The idea that you would have to, modify people's ability to vote in the state because of flooding, and you would also bring in everybody from the legislature from all over the state through the flooded areas and if they couldn't be there to vote, you wouldn't, whatever. And so, this is from the Georgia bill. This is a change, which was why it's underlined, okay? Anywhere it's underlined is these are the primary changes that they've made. Notwithstanding any provisions of this chapter, Chapter 3 of Title 38 relating to emergency management or Chapter 13 of Title 50, the Georgia Administrative Procedure Act, which is what covers the procedures of elections in Georgia, they are making this modification. The state election board may only adopt emergency rules or regulations in circumstances of imminent peril to public health, safety, or welfare. To adopt any such emergency rule or regulation in addition to any other rulemaking requirement of this chapter, the state election board shall, 1, give notice to the public of its intended action. They did that anyways. Immediately upon setting of the date and time of the meeting at which such emergency rule or regulation is to be considered, given notice by email of its intended action to the governor, lieutenant governor, speaker of the House of Representatives, chairperson of the standing committees of each house, the legislative council, and some other folks. The purpose of this is that up until this point, the governor and the lieutenant governor could make these changes under the emergency rules of Chapter 3 of Title 38 relating to the emergency management, or Chapter 13 of Title 50, the Georgia Administrative Procedure Act. They were able to do that by themselves, legally. You don't have to change a law if it was broken. You only change the law if people were following the law and you don't like the fact that they were able to do something and you want the law changed. This change in particular proves beyond a shadow of a doubt on all fronts that everything that Mike Lindell or Trump or anybody who said about the Georgia elected officials or they didn't even pass it, it was violation of the Constitution or violation of the state constitution, is complete and utter bullshit. The legislature put this bill through, the governor ended up signing it, and they added this shit because previously this was not in the law. And so the governor and the lieutenant governor could make these changes on their own. I don't know why anybody fucked with me on this stuff. Just don't. Just don't. Don't bring your shit. Don't even roll up on me with this nonsense, Nigel, or anybody else in the trollosphere. The QAnons, the maggots. Don't even, because all I have to do is roll up the changes that the Republican legislature and the Republican governor and the Republican lieutenant governor and Secretary of State, mind you, because he worked on this as well, made to the law, because under the law, all the changes they made in 2020 were completely fucking legal. And if they weren't legal, they wouldn't have to change the law. They just have to enforce the old law. Seriously. And by the way, in any of the discussions that you've heard elsewhere on the news about the Georgia law, which has some doozies in it, and they're definitely fucking with people. We covered some of it the other day, but most of it is stuff that Democrats can handle. I'm not concerned. Like, Georgia voters aren't fucking stupid. Black people aren't dumb. We can absolutely get everyone to the polls that we need to get to the polls within the rules of this situation. There's no question in my mind. And the other two things that are most concerning will never survive a legal challenge, and they're already being sued over it. Now, by the time May rolls around, the worst parts of this law will be chucked out. That's why, by the way, they put stuff in this bill that says if you throw out one part of it, the rest of it stays on almost every element of it, because they knew a bunch of it would get challenged, and they wanted to keep as much of you'd file separate claims. And they knew that some of the stuff would absolutely not stand up to constitutional muster, so they knew if it got thrown out, you'd have to rework the whole bill. So they made it segment by, like, fucking hell. Anyways, I looked through this whole goddamn thing, and where have you heard anyone bring up this part of it in rebuttal to anything on Fox News, to anything on the naysayers, even on MSNBC and CNN? Any of the bullshit they sling on Newsmax or OAN? Anybody? Anywhere else but here? Where? I beg you to tell me where anybody else. I love you guys, and I don't want you to be afraid, and I want you to only focus on your worry and your energy on stuff that needs to be fixed, and that alone, while not just being overwhelmed with anxiety and fear by this constant barrage of bullshit by people who are selling fear to you every goddamn day that make you just kind of go, well, fuck, I can't do anything about this. I don't even live in Georgia. What the fuck is going on? No one's going to do this. There are simple segments of these things, and Stacey Abrams and the Democrats are going after elements of this bill in the courts right now. Don't let anybody tell you different, that are going to get struck down between now and the spring. And this whole, like, they'll be able to flip the whole election because they on a say-so, which is not in the bill, but there's, like, greasy areas where they could try. That's all going to get chucked out. And all the stuff, there's some stuff in here that's actually good. They added early voting days because they were trying to cover their ass, trying to not look racist with the other shit. The ID rule. Yeah, in a state of 10 million people with 7.3 million voting age people, the ID issue only affects something in the order of like 53,000 voters, which, since it was decided by 12,000, seems significant, and 58% of the 156,000 people with ID issues in their applications that were thrown out, 58% are black, but 90% of them didn't vote. So most of the people who have ID issues are hillbillies in Georgia. Don't believe me? Look at the 12,000 vote margin that's going to turn into 22 or 23 in 2024. You don't think Stacey Abrams knows what the fuck is going on in Georgia? How kind of hard when they are your neighbors and they try to run you over when you go to the mailbox? Good Lord. That is a crime no matter where you live in the country. So I would... Mike Pillow didn't exist until Sparks. That's true. I did coin the phrase Mike Pillow. That's true. And I've seen it used a lot. So thank you very much for noticing.
It is against the law. Wasn't approved by state legislature.
Hi. See that? That's what I'm talking about. Fuck you. All of the states, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, all the states they're bitching about, even the ones that they won that they now think they want to go after, all of them have emergency provisions. All of them are making changes in the law to make those emergency provisions cover elections so that they can have more control over it. Still not going to affect the turnout of the goddamn election. They're just going to have to go and make an up or down vote and put their dick on the table when it comes to, in the guillotine of politics, whenever they want to make a change around, an emergency situation. And God willing, we're not going to have another COVID anytime soon like this. that will magically land in an election year and all that kind of shit. Like, they're trying to solve a perfect storm from decades ago. He's lying, and he's too stupid.
You know, you can't do it even through a court. You can't do it. It has to go through the legislature, and the legislature.
Bullshit. Again. Bullshit. Bullshit. All bullshit. This is the Georgia law. This is SB 202. This is the one they just passed. This is the underlined part. This is the part that they, God damn it. I don't know how many times he's going to repeat the same shit over and over again. Fucking hell.
Didn't approve this stuff, and the courts didn't have the courage to take it up. And so it's...
Hey, it had nothing to do with courage. There was nothing to take up. Not in Georgia, not in Pennsylvania, not in Wisconsin, not in Arizona. They all had rules like this. All of them. All the changes they're making are fixing this. The courts can't take anything up. No law was broken.
An interesting situation, but
no, it is.
We'll see how it all ends out.
I mean, a lot of Americans, as you rightly say, a lot of Americans are genuinely concerned about election integrity. And I have to tell you, from my...
Well, yeah, but I mean, largely because we all know that Trump tried to rig the election and hired a bunch of people to vote on, fake votes and create fake ballots and mail out fake ballots because he was in charge of the country. I mean, understand that he was actually in charge of a lot of shit. Biden wasn't. He was a guy in a basement, so he couldn't have any power over the elections like this. But Trump could, and he used a bunch of organizations all over the country to try and fake votes and make dead people vote and all that kind of stuff. And when he created all those fake votes, he knew, and it turned out he lost anyways. He decided to use those fake votes because they couldn't track them back to who they actually voted for, and assume that they voted for a winner. And when indeed they voted, those fake votes were all for the loser. You're welcome.
Experience back in the UK, mass postal voting, leads to the wrong results very often.
Absolutely.
Well, Lauren Boebert did get elected in Colorado, and they do all mail-in voting, so he may have a point.
Automatically, by the way,
it's a bad system.
They cheat.
It's
automatic. I mean, they put everybody on the millions of people on the honor system. No, there's tremendous cheating with that, and
millions of people on the... There are not millions of honorable people in the United States. Listen to your former maggot leader. America's full of liars and scumbags. Thievery. There's never been a more... It's Mos Eisley. America's the Mos Eisley of the earth.
They've done studies on it. Everybody knows it. Every study comes out, you can't...
Every study from the 70s, before we had cell phones and the ability to track stuff and QR codes and UPC symbols. Remember that? Remember life before that? Remember life before bleat? Do you remember that? Remember, I don't know, many of you, maybe you don't. Do you remember a time when you went to the store and somebody went, hackata, 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 hackata? Clang, schlang. There you go. Thank you. Remember that? And now you go, bleat, 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 bloop. That's when that study was done.
Through the mail. You can't do it. These mail-in ballots are, whether it's your country, whether it's the USA, it's an open invitation to cheat.
But here's the problem. I've seen some pretty extensive private polling that suggests that up to 20% of your potential voters and supporters feel so demotivated by the message that it's been rigged, that it's not fair, that it's not just, that in Georgia, for example, in that special election, which was the one that tipped the balance.
This is not good. This is not what Trump wants to hear. That the loss in Georgia was his fucking fault. And 2022 is going to be the same problem because he's going to be on this fuck the vote tour all of 2022. Every time you ask him, you can't trust elections. It's all bullshit.
Senate. There were a number that perhaps didn't go out to vote who would have done because they felt disgusted with the whole system.
Well, they felt the election was rigged, the preceding election, which was the presidential election. And then when they had to vote.
And so they didn't vote and therefore their vote was stolen from them by someone bullshitting them into not voting? What?
A couple of months later, they really did lose their enthusiasm, and frankly, rightfully so. They had no.
That's it. There you go. That's the whole game. There you go. This is, ladies and gentlemen, I give you the whole reason why the Republican Party is trying to stiff arm Donald Trump at the same time they like give a reach around to his voters. What an asshole. And he's not going to stop. And rightly so. Listen to that fucking answer. And rightly so. It's been a goddamn year. Rightly so. By the way, you know, normally, and including when Trump was in office, the administration that comes in, you know how they say in the midterms you always lose, the party usually loses the House in the upcoming midterm. It's kind of habitual. Occasionally it doesn't happen, but most of the time it does. This time, the same thing is true of Virginia and New Jersey. Usually the governorship flips. New Jersey, famously, Chris Christie was in office. You know, they go Democrat or Republican opposite to the president. It's a habitual thing that Virginia and New Jersey does. This time around, Biden won, and we kept New Jersey. Hair's breadth, but we kept it. It normally flips. The tide of the voter in New Jersey is usually to hand the governor's house to the opposite party. They didn't do it this time. Now, part of it might have been because they were just sick of Trump and they're kind of old Chris Christie voters, so they know he's an asshole, and they have that kind of ego issue with them being neighbors to New York. And a lot of them know better. The New Jersey people know that Trump is full of shit in the way that the Virginians necessarily might not. But we kept New Jersey this time. The Democrats still control New Jersey in the governor's mansion, which normally flips. Now, that could be because they support Biden and they know Trump's an asshole. But part of it, and since it was a hair's breadth, it's kind of important. Part of it could be a bunch of Republican voters who just don't believe in voting anymore because of this asshole. Well, that one over there. It almost looked like I was pointing at Nigel Farage's actual asshole, which I was not, for the record. I was not.
The governor of Georgia did a terrible job, like just terrible, having to do with election integrity. And yeah, they felt an election was rigged and stolen, and I would say they didn't have the enthusiasm to go out and vote. And I understand that. Now, one other thing, Mitch McConnell did a terrible job because this guy.
Oh yeah. Okay. All right. I don't normally want to interfere with him when he shits on other Republicans. So I'm gonna leave the show early tonight. We'll pick up. There are two of these interviews, and we just don't have time. It's 6:15 already, and I've already gone over. And I start later on Thursday, so I don't want to steal everybody's evening, and I've got food waiting for me. Because my girlfriend brought dumplings. But in the meantime, I will see you guys at the regular time. Hang on there a second, man. Don't go. We ain't going nowhere now. He's my hero. Look at him with all that French curlicue shit. He looks like he's in it Marie Antoinette's vagina right there with all that nice curly pretty stuff on the walls and things like that. Buddy, old man, old Henry, that's a place to hang out. I want to hang out with him. Well, can we see him tomorrow? Yes, we can see him tomorrow, Ficus. We're not, I can't keep everybody around. But come on, man. I can't leave him. He's spewing the truth bombs all over the place, and he's spewing out so many truth bombs. He's wearing a fresh diaper, and he's having to slurp a lot. Like it's coming out of every hole. Truth out of every hole. I think they're gonna have to burn that seat when he's done. All right, we have got to get out of here, and I will have. Yes, by the way, that's Ficus for those of you that haven't met him. I will bring Chip in the morning show tomorrow, 9 a.m. Pacific time. I do a morning show, Hal Sparks Mornings Mega Worldwide. You can watch that. It's a longer form conversation. And yesterday, the Wednesday show, I'm particularly proud of. I know I went a little long on the topic, but it ended up being like my 90-minute TED Talk on statistical bullshit, and I think it's worth a rewatch or a pass around. I'll try and make a nicer cut version of it. And then tomorrow, the regular 3 o'clock show, and I'll see you guys tomorrow afternoon. And hang on there a minute. Just tell you what, you can leave if you want to, but just leave me behind to hang out with him. I gotta take a picture of him and Nigel Farage. What kind of French froggy name is that anyway? That bullshit. Ferengi. He's a Ferengi? That's from Star Trek, isn't it? Come on. Hey, look at him. I'm never voting again. Salute. All right, we'll see you guys tomorrow. Have a great night. Much love. Thank you guys for the support. Thanks everybody for the super chats. Thank you, Benny Loco. He's a drugstore truck driving man. He's the head of the Ku Klux Klan. When summer comes rolling around, we like to get out of town. Joan Baez and Jeffrey Shirley. Well played. Bonnie, thank you. Thomasana, thank you so much. Lulu Girl, thank you. Thank you, Shadow Woman, for gifting subs. Stargal and Tony from Ireland. You guys are the heavy hitters on Twitch. In many ways, I couldn't do it without you. Thank you for sharing those. Don't forget to like and subscribe, you rat bastards. What's wrong with you, man? Do you want to see more of me or not? I don't have time for this. I'm going to have to get a real goddamn job if some of you folks don't subscribe. Feek us out.